Hello, my dear listeners, and welcome to today's episode of the Wings podcast. I'm excited to have Sahil Paranjape on today's episode. Sahil is a young 32-year-old businessman, a part of a very, very reputed and respected construction house based in Pune called Paranjape Construction. And he was telling me when I was speaking to him a little while ago, he is playing a very important role as a chief operating officer for one of the major township projects that Paranjape Construction Company is putting up in the outskirts of Pune. And his organization, his company is more than 3 decades old, having operations all across the country. Well, that's, my dear friends, is the day job of Sahil. But apart from that, what he tells me, he is an avid cyclist in a category called endurance cycling. And we'll probably know more about that from Sahil. And he has this amazing love for art. He's a painter. He is an amazing creator and loves to travel to offbeat locations. So welcome, Sahil, to the show. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm good. I'm good. Just thrilled and excited as it's my first podcast, and that's what excited.
And how does it feel to have this conversation today?
It's going good right now.
Okay, awesome. So tell us more about this township project that you are leading, and what is the size and scale of it, and something more about what kind of whom are you making this for?
Okay, so basically, I started working with my family, and for the last 7 years, I've been working with my family. And the first 5 years, I took myself into consideration under my dad's consultants, and then after all the parameters that I went through, he gave me this project known as Forest Trails in Bhugao, which is basically a mixed-use development, which is only a residential development, which starts from bungalows from 1 BHK till 5 BHK. And there is senior citizen housing also over there and a school as well. So it's like a mini township, like it's staying in Pune, but it has its own all facilities inside the premises itself.
And how big is the township in terms of the area of land or the
So
number of residents?
the acreage of this township is 175 acres. And right now there are 5,000 apartments and bungalows which we have given, and there will be around 1,000 more apartments which will be given next year.
Oh, that's awesome. That's massive, Sahil. Probably
Yes.
one of the largest construction projects happening in Pune, I guess, at this point in time. Can we say that?
No, actually, it's like you can say the top 5 projects going on in Pune in acreage wise, actually.
And as a chief executive or chief operating officer for this project, overseeing the entire project, what specific is your role, Sahil, and what keeps you excited in that role?
So basically, as you know, I'm like my day starts at 5 a.m. So I like talking with a lot of people. So mostly I look into sales and into construction. I don't look into financing of this project, but I look into sales, looking into. So it's like a customer based orientation that I look into. So whatever regarding customer base, I look into that.
And who is your buyer? Are these people in India, or do you have to sell it overseas too? Do you do that as well?
So basically, it's a mixed breed, like age starts from 30 till 70, 75 years. So there's a lot of gaps. So that's the reason I like speaking with a lot of people, because I tend to know them like from their age group, what their basic needs are when they're buying a home or something like that. So it's like a good experience for me to speaking with a 30-year-old IT customer and a 75-year-old retired veteran as well.
Any conversation that you've had with the recent past with any of your customers that you distinctly recall, which kind of left a very interesting mark on you? You probably remember it for a long time. Anything that comes to your mind?
So basically there was this woman who just came, saw this project. She spoke to me for almost 2 hours. And then all of a sudden she's like, okay, I'll book an apartment over here. And then she booked an apartment in that day itself. So that was one of my luckiest customers. And after that also I've kept on communicating with her, and she's become like a family to me. So she goes on calling me to her home for whenever she bakes or something. She's like, Sahil, come, we'll have a cup of tea. So it's more like I don't look them as a customer, I look them as a family when it comes to buying a home with us.
Any experience of a tough customer whom you have to really work hard on?
Oh, many. Let's not go there right now.
No, no, it's fun to understand, because somehow one believes that construction is one industry where there is enough and more demand, and somehow selling is not tough. You just have to have a good house at price, located right and priced right, and you will have buyers. If that is a myth, any experience you have which probably will bust that myth.
There are three types of people.
Yeah.
There are three types of people, to be frank. One will be very sober, one will be very stringent, and one will be like, they want everything but at a very low cost.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have to change your speech and your tone when it comes to all these. So it's all customer, like when I can judge a customer in 5 minutes speaking to him.
Mm-hmm.
So if that person I know that he's able to buy an apartment, but then he's just asking for the price, I tell him like, I'll take my time and I'll communicate with you. So I do not go with any grudges or anything with any customers, but then if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, I say like, sir, thank you very much. I hope we'll have another apartment coming up soon for you.
Wonderful. So you said when we started this conversation, Sahil, that you joined this family business of Paranjape Construction over the last 7 years. How has this journey been for you? What have you learned over these 7 years? What have been your high points, any low points? I'd love to hear that if you can.
So basically, it's a family-oriented business. So we are 6 of us, and I am one of the sons who technically like to speak with the customer, because I do not like to just forecast कि हाँ ये customer आएगा मेरे अभी सामने और booking करेगा, ऐसा नहीं. So speaking with a lot of people have actually changed my mindset about a lot of things also. So sometimes it's very similar, the work goes on very similar ways, but then it's a challenging job altogether. So whatever comes in my face, I have to answer that questions. So it's very quick, you need to answer very quickly, but in a very good way.
And you said
that's what I've learned for the last 7 years.
And you said that your day begins at 5. So how does the day start for you? How does the day progress for you? Where and how does it end? What is a typical day in the life of Sahil Paranjape?
So basically, as you know, I'm a cyclist, and I started cycling actually 5 years back. So so my routine was typically after my college, it was more like a party Sahil. But now for the last 7 years, it's become more like a sober Sahil now, because I wake up at 4:30, and then I tend to go for cycling at 5:30, and then we cycle. There's a couple of friends who I cycle with. I cycle for almost 2.5 hours daily, and after that I come home, have my breakfast, come home, come to my office at 10. 10 to 3 is more like more of a office kind of a related work, and between the lunch time, I tend to have time to draw like small doodles. So I don't tend to waste my time watching TV or something like that. Yeah, like I do watch YouTube, but when I'm sketching, then I tend to watch these series which are more like a travel based series. So in that case, if I'm planning to go somewhere out of India, I tend to know like I need to go to these places. If I go to these places, and then I come home, then I play with my nephew and niece, and then parents watch my IT serials with my mom, and then I go off to sleep by 9, 9:30, 10 max.
Oh, awesome! Because
this is my usual.
Yeah, it's so interesting
This
because
is
what one hears is there are many people who are night owls. For them, the day probably ends at 2 in the morning, but since your day begins at 4 or half past 4, it probably ends up at about half past 9, 10. Very different kind of a cycle. But Sahil, tell us more about your love for cycling. When did it start? How did it start? And how has it played out for you? And what is this thing called endurance cycling? What do you do there?
okay. So basically, in 2015, I was almost 110 kgs, and I had some knee problems. So that's the reason I stopped playing football. I used to play football, and I had a knee injury. So I actually consulted with a doctor, and he said, like, Sahil, why don't you take on cycling? It's less injurious to your body. So I started cycling around 5 to 10 kilometers. I couldn't do a cycle, like I couldn't cycle for more than 5 to 10 kilometers. Never cycled in my life to school as well, because my school was like 5 minutes away from my home. So I used to walk, or my mom used to drop me. So from 2015, I found this friend who told me, saying, "Ki Sahil, why don't you join a group of young people, old people, like the age group was around from the age of 15 till 60." So then I joined them, and then they used to carry along with these 60, 70 kilometer rides. And they used to go for almost 6, 6, 7 hours. That time I used to take around 60 to 70 kilometers. I used to take 5.5 hours to complete the whole ride. But now, seeing the progression and seeing what I do, so basically I call myself an endurance cyclist, because I cycle more than 100 kilometers, and the daily average weekly cycling that I do is around 300 to 350 kilometers on a weekly basis. So a person who is doing more than 300 kilometers in a week is known as an endurance cyclist, because he tends to he tends to cycle for almost 60 to 70 kilometers every day. So this is how I started cycling. And now what I have done a lot of races around India. I had few experiences in Kashmir also while cycling.
Okay.
So yeah, so endurance cycling is basically more about doing long distance, taking as much as time you want, but then you need to complete. Like whenever I tend to go cycling from point A to point B, you need to come to point A again, because you're not having a car backup or anything. So you need to carry your own food, your own nutrition and everything. So I tend to carry everything on my cycle, and if a cycle puncture, then we have to remove the puncture that time. So basically endurance cycling is more about that.
So, so tell us about one of the most difficult or harshest cycling adventure you've gone through. Tell us more about that.
So in 2015, I actually started cycling, and 2016, without telling my mom and dad, I actually booked one of these tours, which is from Manali to Leh. So it's like a cycling tour, you can say. Six
Okay.
days, we tend to go cycling from Manali all the way to Leh Ladakh, which is around 650 kilometers. So
Okay.
every day you need to cycle around 100 kilometers, and you need to climb an elevation of around 1000 to 1500 meters, and then you descend again. So it was more like
Oh.
being a amateur cyclist at the age
Okay.
of means at the age of say 24, 25.
Okay.
And so that's how I started enjoying cycling. So that was the thing that made me like, yeah, I'm a good cyclist, I should carry that ahead. And I don't do gym, I don't do trekking, I don't do anything, I just do cycling.
So this is a cycling in the mountainous region where you said you not only have to do a certain number of kilometers a day, but there is also a gradient. I'm sure it
Yes.
must be very strenuous. So any time in that journey that you did from Manali and Leh, you felt like, oh, this is too much. I want to give up. This is not for me. But
Yes,
somehow
many
you kind of
times, many times.
so tell us, walk us through that experience. Where you kind of where you're fighting your own mental battles.
So basically, it was a 7 day trip. So every day has its own challenges. So every day the topography was changing. It started from a very greener location, and it went all the way in the snow. So high altitude sickness and everything has already hit me by third day or fourth day. And when you go on high altitude cycling, you tend to speak whatever it's coming in your mind. So I have had fights with my very close friends also, saying कि अबे तो रुका क्यों नहीं, मैं 5 मिनट पीछे था, आगे जाके क्यों खड़ा है, पीछे हम पीछे फोटो लेते हैं. So it's more like a adventure tour, like a situation. So but I finally finished the whole thing. So I did Khardungla as well. So I cycled till Khardungla from Manali, and that's a 14 and it's almost 32 kilometers of only sheer climbing. And I took
Awesome.
almost 1.5 hours to climb that gradient.
So awesome you say this, because you're saying today, as an endurance cyclist who does anything 300, 350 kilometers plus every week, which is 50, 60, 70 kilometers every day.
Yes.
What if
Yes.
somebody tells you, I will not allow you to cycle tomorrow? How would you feel?
I'll just disown them. Just say like you do whatever you want. Like if someone comes and proposes me also, and if I have to go cycling with my friends, I'll say like propose बाद में करना, अभी cycling जाके आता.
So is it kind of right, mid and center for you in your life right now? Cycling is what takes your primary focus or interest? Is that where it is?
So the thing is, I keep on cycling because there's a lot of mental pressure when it comes to work as well.
It's the cycling that kind of de-stresses you. Would it be fair to say that?
Yes, cycling actually de-stresses me a lot. Like whenever I'm stressed out, I tend to go more than 100 kilometers. So that stress goes away. And actually, when it comes to cycling, you tend to cycle through these very narrow places where people tend to not come. And I have seen very good places around Pune where people don't actually know that these places actually exist. So I tend to post a lot of pictures when I'm actually cycling. So most of my people, most of my followers or most of my friends are saying, "Oh, where's this from?" Then I tend to tell them, "Ki this location, please go and visit it." So I've actually cycled a lot of places where people can't go. Also, people don't know. So that actually de-stresses me, like keeps away from all these cut from my work.
So can one see your cycling pictures? Let's say, are you on Instagram?
Yes, I am on Instagram, known as Silo 90 Paranjape.
Can you say that out, please?
It's Silo 90 Paranjape.
Silo 90 Paranjape. Very
Yes.
interesting. Very interesting. So in all this, passion for cycling, your, of course, commitment to work, how do you find time to pursue the other love of your life, which is art? Because you just said even at a busy day at work, in lunch you doodle, you draw something. So tell us more about the art.
Yes.
And what kind of art that you do. Is it just conventional painting or something different?
So basically, I do not like conventional painting because I don't like a painting which is more than 2 or 3 days time. Like I do not like to have a painting which will take more than 2 to 3 days time. So I do these. I call myself a artist who has its own personality, and a lot of people say like I have very different concept altogether. Like I take three things in my mind and I put that three things together and I make a collage out of it. And then that collage, I make it into a painting. So take into consideration, say like I've seen a bird and I've seen some plants. I take those plants as inspiration. I take that bird as an inspiration and make it like make a illustration out of it.
But I've seen you draw amazing portraits or faces, because I know last time when I came to your house and your father showed me a very, very beautiful work of art that you did, which has faces which were layered one on top of the other. It was a very interesting, what shall I say, multiple faces
Even
of
I have
different.
no answer for that.
Sorry?
Even I have no answer for that. Art doesn't have any kind of it's like a very broad yes. So you cannot have a definition for an art. That's what I can say.
Interesting. And you also were telling me that day evening when we were talking is somehow your love for art and love for travel, they kind of go hand in hand. And there was this
Yes.
amazing trip that you did. Was it in Europe? Was it in Africa somewhere? I don't know. Where was that? You went? You did something interesting there.
So one was in Hungary and one was in Morocco, which is western side of Africa.
Of course. Yeah. So yeah, I know you
So
had some great time in Morocco. Why don't you walk us through that experience?
yeah, so basically in Morocco, I had a friend who stays over there. His name is Abdul, and I had asked him like, like because Morocco people think Morocco is in Europe, but frankly, it's in Africa. So
Okay.
when I told my friend saying he's अबे मैं मोरक्को जा रहा हूँ अभी वो तो यूरोप जा रहा है मतलब जाके आ मुझे ये दिखा I'm like it's in Africa and then
Okay.
their faces are like what where's Morocco then I had actually had to show them on the world map saying कि ये Morocco है
Okay.
because people over there are not typical like you can see they're not typical Africans. They are a mixed breed of Europeans and Africans staying together.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually contacted a friend through Instagram. So he was actually following me. I was following him because he's also a avid traveler. So I actually asked him saying ki I'm coming to Morocco. So is it possible for you to meet me? And then he's like, yeah, sure, come along. I'll show you all the places in Morocco, not the typical places in Morocco, but the places where we hang out, like Moroccans hang out.
Mm-hmm.
We do not like to hang out in these like how in India, if you say like Agra or Taj Mahal or Gateway of India is like a typical tourist locations. In Morocco, he actually showed me very small alleys where I could find inspiration from my sketches later on. So I went to Casablanca first and then I met him for 4 or 5 days. So before meeting like I was with my parents. So I told my parents saying, listen, I'm going with my friend. Let me have a day off with my friend. And then they're like, okay, fine, you can go. And then he actually showed me. And the next day I showed my parents the same location where he had taken me. And it was a very different altogether yeah, all experience was very different from what a lot of people think.
So has there been any, I'm sure there must be many sketches where you have captured the life in Morocco as probably Moroccans would live. You know,
Yes. I have
any,
an art page. I have an art page where people can follow it. So I tend to post almost two or three paintings per month, in which right now because of Corona I'm not able to travel, but then I take inspiration around in India. So I tend to go to places like Mahabaleshwar, Lonavala, Pachgani, Goa, Himachal. Then I tend to sketch from that point of view. Ki, हाँ, Himachal गया हूँ, so huts, snow, and that like that.
and this is all on your Insta handle, correct?
Yes. Everything is on my Insta handle.
So because it's a very differently sounding name, would you mind, for our listeners to spell it out, the handle, so that they'll get it right?
Yeah. It's known as Lafenet. It's Lefenete.
Can you say that again, please?
It's Lefenete.
Okay, that's the handle on Instagram that anybody can visit and see your sketches there. Awesome. So probably love to do that. And what we also know that apart from having friends in places like Morocco, you seem to be having friends all over the world. You have an amazing friend in Turkey too, right? I mean, you did some amazing stuff with that friend of yours. What was that?
So basically, not in Turkey, it was in Hungary.
Okay,
so
sorry,
basically,
Hungary, yeah.
I was studying out. Yeah, it was out of So I was studying out of India. So the problem, as you go out of India, you don't like. I had in my mind saying, ki, I never want an Indian friend. If I'm going out of India, I will always like to have friends from other countries. So in 4 years that I was out of India, I made a couple of Indian friends, but then most of my friends came from Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Hungary, Japan, Korea, mostly Southeast Asia. And then the Hungary girl was with so her name is Kathleen, and she used to stay in CZ, which is in Hungary. So she used to study with me. She was a young, she was my senior actually. So then after finishing my college, I was going to Hungary. So I contacted her through Facebook or Instagram. And then she said like, oh, then why don't you come over for dinner? I'm like, I'm with my parents. Like, why don't you come over? So it was a very nice location where her house was. So she stays in a farm and she has these cows. She has like 100 cows, and then there's a stream that is running through. It's a typical European house that they have. So so they introduced us to Hungarian food. Mostly Hungarian food and Indian food is very similar. If you say they have batatachi bhaji also,
Oh,
but they call it like something else. They call it
okay,
something else,
okay,
and they have roti, but then they call it something else. So
okay.
I guess each and everyone is connected to each other through food also, as well as as well as because I'm a traveling, and she also actually cycles. So we actually went on a cycling tour around her city with me and her brother. My mom and dad actually cycled that time for the first time
Wow,
in their life.
wow, wow.
Yes,
Awesome.
but it was not more than 10 kilometers, not
Sure.
more than 10 kilometers. Yeah.
So awesome.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
so it
so this is very interesting. I mean, uh, what I would say that here is Sahil, who at one side is a hard-nosed business person, uh, selling real estate, construction houses, dreams, and not to customers, people who make them as a part of your family, so that the buyers of your residences, the lady who probably bakes a cake, she remembers you when she bakes that cake, which is what an awesome relationship that exists. And this endurance cycling and this art and in this friends in amazing location at global places. So what a beautiful tapestry that is, probably like the colorful printed shirt that you're wearing right now, Sahil.
yeah,
So
I like to wear these kind of shirts. People judge me, but I am like, I don't care what they say.
absolutely.
People are
So
like, "Tu Goa mein hai." I'm like, yeah, my office is in Goa.
so I know at this stage or age in life, Sahil, when you look forward, maybe a couple of years down the line, or 4 or 5, I don't know. Let's not go far beyond. But if you were to say that at a certain point in time, this is what success means to me. That if I see myself doing these 3, 4 things, let's say 4, 5 years from now, I feel that is success for me.
Mhm.
That is what is my dream or aspiration. What would that be, Sahil?
So for me, traveling all the countries in the world is my goal, to be frank with you. So I
Hmm.
want to go to these places which are non-touristy friendly places as well. But then it will take some time. I'm 32, but I still have a long life to go. So by the age of 60, I want to take out almost 100 countries. Right now, I've been already on to 40 countries, but I want to go 100 more countries so that in that case, I'll be able to understand traveling more and more better, and their culture, their way of living, the art that they have. So, and from that, I can make my art grow as well. And yeah, I will love to go and cycle around the world, maybe from India all the way to Europe someday, through
So,
you can say through Pakistan or something like that also.
so awesome. I mean, I can actually start imagining that here you have the cycle, with you, and maybe your sketchbook and colorful pencils or brushes, whatever you carry, going around like a very free, happy bird in different parts of the world, and really capturing experiences as putting them in your sketchbook. So this is so beautiful, and I
Yes.
think as we kind of come close to this conversation, all I can say and wish on my behalf and on behalf of all the listeners of this podcast, I'm remembered of this line from this very old television show called the Star Trek, where where the line goes that let us go where no man has ever gone before. So maybe we all wish you, Sahil, to find your own destinations wherever they are. And I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised someday we'll probably see a book penned by you, maybe your own memoirs, your own journeys, and would love to read that book if and whenever that happens. So wish you good luck, wish you all the joy in life, and thank you so much for being on this show. And before we end the show, may I say, to ask you that how has this conversation been for you? How did you feel, being on this podcast? And what are the thoughts and feelings that are left with you as we kind of end this conversation?
As you say, this is my first podcast, so I was thrilled, first of all. And most of the people now know me what I am. Don't hesitate to speak to me. That's one thing. I'm very friendly. Though in pictures you might think that I look very rude, but no, I'm not like that.
No, not
Just
at all.
connect me on Instagram. That's not an issue. So that's what I can say. You can just tag along with my friends. You can understand my friends, me. Come along with me cycling. You'll understand me more. That's what I can say.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sahil, for coming on the show. Wish you good luck and stay
Thank
safe.
you so much. Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
See you.
Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75@gmail.com. Thank you.